Hello everyone, I'm Ravi Handa and welcome to another episode of Desi Fire podcast. As you might have realized, I'm recording this in Bali. Maybe that's more evident from the beer which is there. Today, I wanted to talk about the usefulness and the uselessness of fire calculators. The fundamental idea behind fire calculators comes from the concept of safe withdrawal rates, which is how much can you withdraw from your corpus every year throughout your retirement. Some of the ideas start with that you have a starting number and then you keep adjusting it with the rate of inflation as you go ahead. Well, I don't really think that makes too much sense for multiple reasons. One of the reasons is that there are too many unknowns. For example, you don't know how long you're going to live. You don't know how your health is going to turn out. You don't know how much inheritance, if any, you're going to get. There might be some income in later years, which is again an unknown. There might be some spending habits that change. Once again, that is a complete unknown. The taxation policy can change. The big ones, you don't really know what the market returns are going to be. You don't really know how the economy of the world is going to behave. So there are just too many known unknowns. And then there comes the factor of unknown unknowns. You don't even know what something radical can happen, which can change things drastically. So what do? You rely on experts and get that percentage withdrawal number from other people, such as one of the most aggressive numbers comes from a guy called Dave Ramsey, very well known financial guru in the US. He says that you can withdraw up to 8%, which means if your annual expenses are X, you need 12 and a half times that number to retire early. Then back home, there is Dhirendra Kumar from Value Research, who gives a number of 6%. Then there is the William Bengen study, which says that the number should be closer to 4%. And then there are a few other studies which talk about numbers as low as 3%. Very recently, I read an article in the Mint which talked about that you need 60 times your annual expenses, which comes to a withdrawal rate of just 1.66% if my calculations are correct. And that is a problem. So, suppose your expenses are 20 lakhs a year. Now, when you're talking about an 8% sort of a return, so 20 into 12.5, that would come to around 2.5 crores. But when you talk about a 60x sort of a number, that comes to 12 crores. So, this range is very, very wide. So, they don't work as an estimate, they don't really tell you very much. So, what is the use of all of these fire calculators? Well, the idea is they give you some sort of an estimate, some sort of a starting point. I agree to that it gives you some sort of a starting point, but you are not going to pull the plug based on a starting point. So then comes the next question. What do you actually do? So then comes the question, what is it that you can do and what is it that you should do? Well, there are a couple of ideas. The idea that I believe works very simply is that once you believe you have enough or you have close to enough, maybe take a year long break. And if you believe that, okay, how can I take a year long break? These are my prime earning years, etc., etc. Well, then fire isn't for you. If you cannot even take a year long break to see how your life is going to be after fire, what are you going to do? What are your realistic expenses going to be? Then it doesn't make much sense. The other idea is that if you actually like your job, if you don't really hate your job, then continue working in it. At some point of time, it is possible that you will start hating your job or you will not find meaning in it. That is the point of time that you start to think about fire and early retirement, and perhaps that is the time when you should be looking at fire calculators. Before that, it doesn't make much sense. The other point which I want to highlight, which is something that I've realized in my last 2 years of retirement, is that When I retired, I thought that something like a 30 to 35x of 30 to 35 times of my annual expenses would be enough. But I've grown to realize that a lot of my expenses are very, very discretionary in nature. So maybe I could have just retired with 20 to 25 times my annual expenses and adjusted my expenses as and when the markets behaved, because that is what I have ended up doing. I retired 2 years ago, but I didn't take many international vacations because of multiple reasons. But in this particular quarter, that is October to December of 2024, I'm taking two international trips. One is in Bali, where I'm recording this video, and for New Year's, I'm planning to go to Vietnam. And the reason why I'm able to do all of that is because the markets have done really well. So I can adjust my discretionary expenses depending upon how the markets are doing. I sold a little bit of equity when the Nifty was around 22,000. I sold a whole bunch more when the Nifty was around 25,000. Now it's possible that I made a mistake, but it was a very small portion of my portfolio. So even if it was a mistake, it is not going to be a big one. But at least what I've ensured is that I have not sold at a bottom. I have not sold after a crash. And if you're willing to adjust your expenses and if you're willing to time the market a little bit, I'm not saying you sell at the top and buy at the bottom. No one can do that. But if you're selling in a bull market, I think it would work out very well for you. And on that particular note, I'd like to end this video. I'll request all viewers to like this video and to subscribe to my channel. And I hope you also have a vacation in Bali very soon. Cheers.